and welcome to another edition of Lunchtime Politics, where current events inspire critical thinking and meaningful conversations about our democracy. Today we reflect on two developments shaping Nigeria's political landscape. First, the conclusion of the Nigerian Bar Association elections offers more than winners and losers. It invites us to examine leadership, institutional credibility, and the integrity of democratic processes. Plus, on the program this hour, the growing debate on local government autonomy raises a fundamental question: can constitutional independence translate indeed to accountable governance and tangible improvements in the lives of the ordinary Nigerian? And with the 2027 elections already on the horizon, these issues are not isolated. They speak to a larger challenge of just how we could build institutions that outlast personalities and strengthen democracy. But first, let's walk you through our radar this hour. Many are feared dead after a two-story building collapsed along the Bale Road near Ajuwa bus stop in Ogun State. House of Reps ad hoc committee investigating the activities of the PFIPC directs the IGP to produce the alleged DG. And plus, on the program, Ondo State Assembly crisis escalates as members insist Speaker must resign. Lunchtime Politics starts right now. Many thanks indeed for joining us on the program. Wherever you're watching from around the world, we're live from our global headquarters here in Lagos, Nigeria. I am Kelly Egiga. Let's begin with our developing story this hour. We are following for you. Many are feared dead after a two-story building collapsed along the Bale Road near Ajuwa bus stop in Ogun State, leaving an unspecified number of occupants trapped beneath the rubble. The incident threw the neighborhood into confusion as residents were here rushed to the scene in search of survivors, while a large crowd gathered around the collapsed structure. Emergency response teams, including officials of the Ogun State government, are at the scene trying to bring victims out of the rubble. Well, it's our developing story. We have updates for you in our subsequent news package. But let's switch gears to other stories now. The House of Reps ad hoc committee investigating the activities of the Presidential Foreign Intervention Promotion Council, PFIPC, has directed the Inspector General of Police, Olatunji Dusu, to produce the alleged DG of the disputed agency to appear before it. It's also urging the IGP to produce Adeni Adeyemi before the committee on July 29, 2026 at noon, as its investigations into the PFIPC continues. Now, also appearing before the ad hoc committee investigating the alleged operation of a fake presidential agency, the Accountant General of the Federation, Samseldin Ogunjimi, says no government funds were released to the purported Presidential Economic Advisory Council despite requests for funding, because there was no budgetary provision. A senior advocate of Nigeria and candidate in the 2026 Nigerian Bar Association presidential election, Lateef Omoyemi, has challenged the outcome of the polls, asking the NBA National Office's Election Appeal Committee to modify the process and elections and order a fresh one. In a petition dated July 27, Akongbe is alleging that the July 18 election was marred by widespread irregularities, including the malfunction of the electronic voting platform, non-receipts of one-time passwords by eligible voters, the use of multiple voting websites, and the extension of the voting period beyond the advertised deadline. He's also challenging the election of Mrs. Onyekonsola Badejo Okusoya, SAN, who was declared winner by the Electoral Committee of the NBA after polling 12,317 votes, representing 47.18% of the total votes. Well, he came second with 7,934 votes, representing 30.39%, while Olumiwa Akimboro pulled 5,855 votes, representing 22.43%. In the petition filed before the NBA National Officers Election Appeal Committee in Abuja, where the candidate is contending that the election was invalid because of alleged non-compliance with the NBA Constitution 2015 as amended and the revised guidelines issued by the ECNBA for the conduct of the 2026 National Officers Election. Now, one of the major grounds of the petition is the alleged failure of the electronic voting platform shortly after voting commenced. Akombe submitted that the voting website went down within minutes of the commencement of the election and remained inaccessible for more than 7 hours. According to him, the ECNDA subsequently informed voters that the disruption was caused by a coordinated cyber attack, a claim he said had yet to be independently verified. He further alleged that the voting process was subsequently migrated to another website, which according to him had not been agreed or ratified by the NBA's National Executive Committee, nor tested by the candidates' information technology representatives. All right, so, well, that's the latest twist to the NBA elections aftermath. Let's get some perspective this hour. The 2027 elections, we're counting down to it. There's so much turbulence in Osun State. Plus, there are issues around local government autonomy in that particular state where there have been crises and litigations at the courts for quite some time now. We're joined this hour by Honorable Shaba Ibrahim. He's a former ALGON chairman, Kogi State. He's a former NBA chairman, Lokoja, also a former member of the House of Reps. Thank you indeed, Honorable Ibrahim, for agreeing to talk to us here on the program.
Thank you, and good afternoon, Nigerians.
Yes, perhaps we should begin with this latest twist because, I mean, you are a politician, but you're also a former NBA chairman in Lokoja, Kogi State. So you're a lawyer by training. When your colleague, the NBA presidential candidate, Yemi SAN, I mean, he's challenged that elections, and I wonder perhaps if you are with him as regards what has played out with that elections, because there's so much controversy in the aftermath of the elections.
Yeah, thank you very much. I've had, let me say, I've been issued that I've had issues emanating from, as a consequence of complaints emanating from the conduct of the last NBA election. But short of details, I'm constrained. I may not be able to make any serious comment because the details that are available to me are the ones that you have on the public space. That is pedestrian, what have you, that have been peddled, banded all this while. I do know that a number of colleagues, friends, complained to me that they experienced some glitch in trying to cast their votes. What I don't know is the substantiality of that default and whether it's significant enough to affect the outcome of the election. So if you ask me, I'll say these are some of the things that come normally with electioneering. There usually will be complaints about infractions, but the substantiality of those infractions, and otherwise is a matter of fact and evidence, which are not immediately available to me. So I'm constrained in making any serious informed opinion on what has happened, yes.
So because you're a lawyer, let me just ask you, were you able to vote, and how was the process like for you personally?
No, I didn't vote. I tried a couple of times, it didn't work out, but I was in transit all through, so that also impacted my ability to continue further. But some of my friends who persisted later told me they were able to vote, while some said they got frustrated and they simply decided to stay out. So.
Maybe one final question, Honorable Ibrahim. So, going by the history books, has it ever been heard of that perhaps after the elections, lawyers are made to go over to the polls again? Perhaps, has it ever been done or heard of that? Maybe you did your elections, the NBA elections, for instance, and perhaps the process was announced as null and void. So, has it ever been done before?
Not to my knowledge, but I do know that there have been crises sometimes in the 90s that took the bar into the limbo for a very long time before the elders of the bar had to sit back and get things back on track again. But whether we've had is it a repeat election after complaints emanating from the conduct of polls is what I don't have any knowledge of. And I've stayed long enough to be able to know. So if there was one, I should know. Yes.
All right. Okay, so there are a number of issues, pressing issues we must engage you with, because you wear many hats. Former NBA chairman, Lokoja, former ALGON chairman in Kogi State, former local government chairman in Kogi State as well, former special advisor, national cooperation to the Kogi State government, former member of the House of Reps, and currently you're the national chairman of the former elected local government chairman, Ogun, Nigeria. So much to unpack with you, especially as we begin to count down to 2027. But I'd like to perhaps get your thoughts about what is playing out in Osun State, especially for a local government or a grassroots person like yourself. It does appear that in the books, on paper, Osun State is the only state practicing local government autonomy, because the federal government sends the monies directly to the local government. But that is not appearing to sit so well with the current state governments, in Kogi State. I wonder what you make of what is playing out in Osun State, especially with the violence and turbulence there.
Let me say that the Osun scenario is rather troubling, and the last time I checked, I think there was some dispute as to the conduct of election that culminated in the suspension of allocation to the Osun councils. Shortly thereafter, the government the central government, from what I picked, were sending their funds directly to the local government councils, which became a subject of dispute. Let me say ab initio that the era, we should be able to put behind us the era of interference with local government councils, because we cannot mount the idea of local government autonomy in the open and surreptitiously take out those autonomy by conduct. I as the chairman, national chairman of NALGON Emeritus, I have been in the forefront of agitation for local government autonomy, because I pronounced on the sanctity of that, and ours is to implore their excellencies to please give the local government some breathing space. Let the councils be able to breathe, and by so saying, I mean grant autonomy, not by ways of mouth alone, but let us see those autonomies displayed in practice. I say this because a lot of things are happening in this country today. I mean, if you look at the local government, is arguably the whipping child of the three tiers of government. It has become like an appendage of the state governments, and by so doing, a lot of things, negative things are coming as a consequence of that. you are unable to divorce the current state of insecurity and poverty from that situation, because the local governments are the closest to the grassroots. That is where the bulk of the people are. That is the most accessible tower of government, and when activities fail at that level, a comfortable majority of the people are imperiled. So our agitation, part of the Visit the Trail of ALGON, that is a National Association of Former Elected Local Government Chairmen in Nigeria, is to press, for this autonomy by way of campaign and sensitization, so that the good Lord will touch the hearts of their excellencies that have found the local governments till so alluring and attractive, and they don't seem to be able to keep their fingers away from them. I just shudder to think of what the situation would be if the federal government was behaving towards the states as they are doing to the local governments. So it's a messed up situation. We can only pray that Nigerians will rise up to the challenge and ensure that things are done properly, particularly when you have a pronouncement emanating from the stable of the apex court in the land. It will amount or approximate to nothing other than rascality or whatever you call it for you to do otherwise. The Supreme Court has spoken. There can be political solutions wound around the pronouncement of the apex court. That will be really a messy situation to contemplate. So, our appeal to their excellencies is to give the local government some breather and let, not just in Osun State, all over the country, let these funds flow to the grassroots directly so that development can be triggered at that level.
Brian, I couldn't agree less with you, and I like that phrase, let the local governments breathe. Just to draw our viewers a reminder that it's already been 2 years since that Supreme Court judgment, sometime in 2024, last year, that secured the direct transfer of funds to the local governments. Perhaps one will also wonder why the governors are afraid to implement that judgment. Let's take a breather, Honorable Ibrahim. When we come back, we'll answer that question. We're back in just a moment. Everyone, please stay with us. Welcome back to the program, everyone. This is Lunchtime Politics live from our global headquarters here in Lagos, Nigeria. I am Kelly Egiga. We're talking local government autonomy as we continue to count down to the 2027 elections. 2 years down the line, that judgment secured on July 11, 2024, the Supreme Court had ruled that federal allocations from the Federation account must be paid directly to the 774 local government councils by passing state-controlled joint accounts. 2 years plus down the line, only one state seems to be heeding to that judgment, Osun State. And it's even for political reasons. Honorable Ibrahim Shaba is our guest on the program, former ALGON chairman, Kogi State's former NBA chairman of Lokoja as well, former member of the House of Representatives. Why are the governors afraid to implement or allow the local governments to control their funds? Honorable Shaba.
Thank you. Are they really afraid? That should be the question. Are they afraid? They're just attracted to what looks to me like lush fund. Just the weeping babies. You know, democracy at the local government level, even though constitutionally guaranteed, is usually at the mercy of their excellencies. You know, the respective state independent electoral commissions are mere appendages of the government houses of the respective states. So whenever a governor anoints, the election at the local government level seems, unfortunately, have grown from being a popularity contest to a contest of the anointing. So once the excellencies anoint you, you are good to go. So under that circumstance, you even lose the moral will to even question the indiscretion of government when they seek to do certain things that are not in sync with the spirit of the Constitution. So the governments are not afraid. They have just found what you call a good gold mine in the local government. And I say this without equivocation. I've served at that level. I've had the privilege of controlling funds allotted to my local government when I was in charge.
Yes.
That was some years ago, but today things have moved far away from there.
Yes. So how can the government at the center hold the subnationals to account? If there's a judgment by the Supreme Court 2 years down the line.
Let me say. Thank you very much, Kelly. Let me say this and without mincing words. The enthusiasm, it would seem to me that the enthusiasm with which the central government started this voyage of trying to part local government autonomy by the courts seem to have waned out. They don't seem to me to be as enthusiastic as they were some 2 years ago as they are today, maybe for political consideration. Otherwise, why should Osun be the only one? And that one will come only after there has been some form of crisis at that level. I want to plead, I want to appeal that the government, we shouldn't play footsie with some of these things. We should, the rules cannot be different in Osun and in other states. What is source for the goose is source for the gander. If it can go directly in Osun state, why shouldn't it go in other states? And that brings me to the issue of political will. Yes, it has been done. There has been specific orders of courts and the Accountant General of the Federation and so forth. But this order seems to be obeyed more in the breach. For whatever reasons I'm unable to point to. So the government that took the matter to court via the Attorney General's office has an obligation to its citizens to ensure under the Constitution that judgments of court are not mere policy statements. They are implemented to the letter, and it will not for the greater good of majority of the people. That's my candid view.
Well, the word on the streets and what some sections of Nigerians are saying is that perhaps this is a strategy, perhaps to surround the incumbent governor and make governance really very difficult for him, such that the elections will be heavily militarized, and then maybe that's the word on the streets. I like the fact that you've mentioned the political will here as regards, because 31 states are controlled by the APC, which is also the government at the center. So many Nigerians are wondering why 2 years down that judgment from the Supreme Court, that's the country's apex court, we're here to see that play out in many local government areas across the states. But let's take your perspective on a few more issues because we are running out of time. When you look at 2027 and the build-up to the elections, I wonder if you think that Nigerians are eagerly anticipating the elections, especially first-time voters. I spoke with them just before the current administration came on board. There were a lot of young people who wanted to vote, but with what played out with the last elections and even previous elections, I wonder if you think that the young voters, Nigerians, are looking forward to the elections in 2027.
Well, if you look at it from the perspective of pedestrian views on the street, yes. But looking at it critically again, you will see that those who are registering, I mean the young voters who are just coming on board, yes, they're eager to get on board and be part of the nation building process by exercising their civic rights and obligations to state. But let me make this point clear. There are people who also hold the view that irrespective of what you do, your efforts will come to naught. I think INEC has a lot to do in terms of educating people and also demonstrating via these off-cycle elections that they can be truly independent and earn the confidence of the people. You see, matters of opinion are usually subjective. You really cannot hold anybody culpable for holding opinion. It's a right that is constitutionally guaranteed. But when you now have a preponderance of views suggesting that the system is sufficiently flawed to bat any serious democratic outcome, then we have to be worried. I'm not saying that is what obtains, but I think INEC has a lot to do in this respect to educate the people, to demonstrate by copious action that they can truly deliver in sync with the expectation of majority of Nigerians. So,
and we're totally out of time. Maybe a yes or no question. Is hunger in the land, will that play a big factor in the elections? Just yes or no?
There's hunger in the land.
Will it play a factor in the elections?
Part of the, well, it should be, but no Nigerians, the same people who are hungry are vulnerable and are subject to manipulation. These are people who, I don't know, I don't really know. Nigerians are wonderful people, I don't know, but those who are the most vulnerable are the most erratic, even when it comes to taking steps in defense of their rights and their welfare. So, it's neither here nor there. We can only hope that government will do a lot about what is happening, because as a responsible citizen, you have an obligation to support government in whatever government is doing, to ensure that the government succeeds, and that is our position. So INEC should wake up to its responsibility, educate the people. The hunger in the land is palpable. I know efforts have been made, but that this has translated into real-time effect is another thing altogether. But there's no, there's nothing wrong with continue to push until those doors are open. And the people can have succor ultimately.
We are totally pressed for time. Honorable Shaba Isa Ibrahim is the former ALGON chairman, Kogi State, former chairman, Kogi local government area, former MBA chairman, local JA, former special advisor as well to the Kogi State government, and currently he's the national chairman of former elected local government chairman, ALGON, Nigeria. And I almost forgot, the former member of the House of Reps. Thank you, Honorable Ibrahim Isa Shaba, for your time on the program.
It's my pleasure. Thank you for having me.
And we'll keep that conversation going and advocacy that local government should indeed have that autonomy. Just before we go on the program, let's take you to Ondo State, where the assembly crisis there has escalated as members are insisting that the speaker must resign. Spokesperson for the Ondo State House of Assembly, Olatunji Fagbemi, insisted that the assembly will not hold plenary until the speaker, Olamide Olajiji, resigns. In an interview with some newsmen on Monday in Akure, disclosed that the majority of the lawmakers were in support of the speaker's removal. So we'll keep our eyes and monitor developments right there at the Ondo State House of Assembly to see whether or not they'll mount that pressure for the Speaker of the House to resign. That's the program, everyone. Thanks indeed for watching. On behalf of the production team and everyone here, I am Kelly Egiga, and you have just been served on Lunchtime Politics. Bye now.